All right, guys. So this is going to be the walkthrough for today's assignment. All right, which it will be your success or failure paragraph and your self-assessment. Okay. And so today we write. All right, but today we write about our writing, and this is what I want you to be thinking about today. I want you to be thinking about the idea that we have to be the first readers of our writing. All right. Um, I believe it's as important as any other part of the process, perhaps even more important. um, you know, uh, and I think what's unsettling for me a little bit, at least in my experience as a teacher, is the discovery of how few of us actually go on to either read or to critically review our own writing before letting other eyes see it. Okay, and as I say in here, that is not to say that we can't seek help, all right, or that it has to be perfect. What it is to say is that we have to first read and critically review our writing before we let other eyes see it. Okay, we have to be intimate with our writing. We have to know it. We have to understand it. All right, and I think maybe the best way to frame this is like we have to own it. Okay, and so take ownership and pride in the process. All right, of what you've created. And so that's what we're going to practice today. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take yesterday's paragraph and you are going to copy and paste it into the space right here. All right. Then you're going to go through a series of questions and or tasks and questions. All right. That will complete the self-assessment process. First thing you're going to do though is I'm going to ask you to look at the parts and identify the parts. Okay. Please highlight all the writing that you're hook in yellow. This could be a few words. It could be a number of sentences. It's hard to know. But whatever you consider your hook, please highlight that in yellow. All right. Please highlight all the writing that is your context in green. Okay. Basically, this is anything that's not your hook or your thesis. It's that in between. All right. Here's my hook. Here's my thesis. And that context is all of that stuff in between. Please highlight it green. All right. And then finally, please highlight your thesis. This should be just your final sentence. All right. So please highlight that in blue. So now we've identified parts. Let's take a closer look at the parts, okay? And a lot of these questions are just simply yes or no questions, okay? Others ask a little more. For instance, what type of hook did you use? Please give me the name that is on that hook resource, all right? So if you used word, write word. If you use quote, write quote, etc. Why did you choose this hook type? All right. Please let me or help me understand like what was your thinking behind your selection process here. All right. And then ultimately, because hooks should get your reader's attention, but beyond that, like how did you intend for it to get the reader's attention? Did you intend it to shock them? Did you intend it to engage them on a sensory level? All right. What did you expect it to do to them? All right. And we'll talk more about hooks later on and how they are things that we use or we use them to do things to readers, not just things for readers. But we'll talk about that later on. I just want to know some of your thinking here. Okay, moving on to context. Read your context section by itself. Does it make sense on its own? Is there enough there for the reader to understand the basic situation without telling them the whole story? Or is there too much? All right. Are there parts that you can or should leave out possibly? Does your context fit and follow your hook? All right. Or does it seem to kind of roughly transition into from your hook into your context? Okay. Does your context fit and lead into your thesis? And then ultimately, I want you to go back based on these questions and I want you to make any changes that you think may be necessary to help you get from a no to a yes if you don't have a yes. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Thesis. Is your thesis a single sentence? Does it include the idea of success or failure? Does it include the value that you gained from the experience? Right. As I showed you in the examples yesterday or in the planning sheet, that has to happen. Does it provide the necessary focus for you to write and for the reader to read? In other words, does it provide a clear direction in terms of where the reader can expect the writing to go? Remember, as I mentioned, a thesis is kind of a contract between the reader and the writer. All right. This is kind of the expectation for the piece of writing. Okay. Moving on. I don't want this to take too long. Sorry, I'm taking longer than I even wanted to. Another look or revision. Okay. Now that you have taken another, hopefully more critical look at the changes or critical look, what changes? Oops. Yeah, that's right. What changes would you or could you make before or did you make, or would you make, I'm sorry guys, before letting someone else see it? Please talk about them generally and or specifically in Space Flow. Basically what I want to do, what I want to know is like, what changes did you make or would you make and why? Talk to me about that down here a little bit, okay? And then finally, a cleaner look or proofreading, okay? Now, as you look at this paragraph right here, I know you see what I see, all right? And what I see are some blue and red squiggly lines, okay? That is an obvious, there are problems with this piece of writing. Uh, that is an obvious, there are problems with this piece of writing. Your computer screen is telling you alert that you need to fix something before turning it into me. Consequently, many of you turn in stuff that looks exactly like this, okay? Here's the deal though, that needs to change, okay? And I'm not trying to do this from an authoritarian, I am teacher, you are student, you follow directions place. I'm trying to get you to understand that this is ground level ownership right here. I would hope that you would never turn something into anyone that looks like this, okay? Now, that is not to say that I believe you know how to fix all the problems, okay? A lot of times the computer will fix it for you if you just click on it, okay? Other times you may need to seek help before turning it in, or at the very least, just highlight it for me. If you highlight it for me, then you're telling me you're not ignoring it, all right? And when we're ignoring things like this, we are not taking ownership or responsibility for our own process, okay? And so let's get better about this. If you looking back at your paragraph right now, you see blue or red squigglies, I want you to try to fix those, all right? Let the computer fix them, get someone to help you, or highlight them for me so I know you're not ignoring them, okay? This has to change, and we're going to start with that today, all right? And then finally, please turn this document in when it's complete, all right? So that should get us through the whole process. We went from planning to writing, now to taking a closer, more critical look and reviewing our own work, okay? And so with that, guys, I'm excited to see what you have created, all right? Please follow all the steps, okay? And then get this turned in to me, hopefully, by the end of the day so you don't have any homework over the 3-day weekend. Okie dokie?